How will SoftBank react to this?
Well, very interesting question. So it sounds like it, doesn't it, that WeWork is desperate to go ahead with this IPO, announcing this morning a series of changes designed to make investors a bit more comfortable with this very controversial listing. They've clearly had feedback from investors, not all of it good, and have announced these changes in an attempt to essentially put to rest some of the more controversial aspects of the listing. But it remains to be seen whether this will be enough, of course, because it's not just the governance changes, differences that were concerning for investors, but also the business model, the losses, and the cash burn.
When do we actually know about how much this is valued and whether it'll start making money and getting rid of the debt, Chris?
Well, I mean, the roadshow yet to kick off, still some feedback got to be received from WeWork yet before we know whether we'll even get to the starting line of the IPO. These governance changes may be enough to give investors some comfort that there'll be sufficient oversight of the board. Very interesting that WeWork is stressing that now members of Mr. Neumann's family, i.e. his wife, won't have a big say in who succeeds him. It's interesting, too, that they're cutting the number of voting shares, and they're also going to return any profits that Mr. Neumann made personally from the sale, from purchasing buildings and renting them out to WeWork. That takes some of the sting out of this IPO for some potential investors, but it still remains the case that this is a phenomenally loss-making and cash-burning exercise.
Chris Hughes, I haven't read the whole S1A. You haven't read the whole S1A. It seems like it is a radical tone change. It's amazing the difference in tone paragraph to paragraph. Tell us about the position of the underwriters here. Have they not been terminated because they don't want to go through that ugly event? Or is there a confidence in JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs?
Well, they're very difficult. Obviously, we're going in real time here. They're having to make changes on the hoof at the last minute. This is all very unusual. This was a company fundamentally controlled by Mr. Neumann. He's having to now give up a lot of that ground. The advisors, presumably a few months ago, were telling him, this company could really, deliver a huge valuation when it goes to market. Now, perhaps we won't get even half of the last valuation, which of course was $47 billion. That would be a huge disappointment. The fact that they're going ahead with it anyway, though, suggests that WeWork really needs to do this IPO. And of course, it's not just the money they hope to raise in equity, but also about $6 billion of debt that comes with the IPO and is conditional on doing it. This means this IPO almost has to go ahead, and that means giving some serious concessions to investors.